Morten Rossé joins me now. Welcome to the Forum for the Future of Agriculture in 2018. And I know, Morten, that you're going to be talking about a best practice example on production and protection from the tropics later on to the forum today. Can you give me the essence of what you're going to be telling everyone here?
Yes, so I work in a global incubator that looks at sustainable land use projects around the tropics. And what I'm going to talk about today are three examples, one from Ethiopia, one from Kenya, and one from Indonesia, about how pockets of truly sustainable land use management in the developing world can scale and meet sort of the international markets. So I'm going to try to explain a journey that these project owners have been on for the last 10 years and hopefully inspire the audience and my colleagues to see towards new development areas.
That inspiration piece then, that's important because we have such enormous global concepts to consider. So looking from that global principle down to the local example,
yes.
How important is that?
I think it's crucial. The food system is based in nature, and nature is very diverse, and nature works differently from location to location. I was very inspired just now by Chairman Potocnik talking about local solutions, and we need to see a diversity of solutions across the world that are coming through. That is the real challenge of the next 10, 20 years, is how do we build up a global food system that embraces diversity and embraces local solutions, but bring them into a global market frame. And that helps us on our health questions, it helps on environmental sustainability. It really truly speaks to economic development, and diversity also, gender diversity, what Queen Noor just talked about.
Going back to Janis Potocnik for a moment, I mean, we were talking about preserving more and producing more.
Yes.
And he said, unless we really look at that closely and act, then, and be less lukewarm, unless we warm up to that, then we are sleepwalking towards catastrophe.
I see that a lot in the tropics where I work. Sometimes people, they think that the tropics is very, very rich nutrient soils if you're not a farmer or if you're not an expert in the field. What is actually happening is that in the tropics, the soil layer is very, very shallow because of the heavy rainfalls and other things. What that means is that when you convert the forest into large-scale agriculture and you bring what was a multiculture into a monoculture, you see very quickly the deterioration that can happen in the agricultural system. And that means that I see a lot of those highly degraded landscapes, and where people have essentially given up on producing anything there anymore. And when people give up producing, they still live there. And we see very extreme poverty because of it. Yes, I think it's not a threat in the future. It's a threat that we see today and which we need to act on.
We just listened to Queen Noor in her opening address. You know, she talked about the Middle East having the biggest disparity between wealth and poverty, but that again, local action, looking at marginalised groups, you know, finding the investment and the capacity to unleash that. That must be something that you see in your work. And I know that you've worked at McKinsey in a former existence, so you've seen the developed world and its ideas. Now we need to bring some of those marginalised voices to life.
Yes, and that's the real challenge that I'm working with on a day-to-day basis. We are finding communities or farmers across the tropical belt, and we want to try to get them to a place where they can receive commercial investments from third parties. These farmers, they know how to manage their lands, but they necessarily do not know how to communicate their messages, and they may also talk with different crops or different ways of managing the ecosystem that the banking system or the financial institutions are used to. So we need to educate on both sides, and I'm not a farmer. I'm not an expert on that. I do understand the financial system, but so my work is really to try to get those two parts together and then of course the policymakers, and of course the NGOs and the civil society.
Well, enjoy the forum today. Thank you very
Thank you
much,
so
Morten, and I hope that you can get that message across to everyone here.
I'll do
Many
my
thanks.
best. Thank you very much for having me.